people always seem to say that, well, no one ever defines what woke is. Well, Wikipedia and the Oxford Dictionary have definitions that aren't really that objectionable. They tick the right boxes and they may be framed in a way that I perhaps wouldn't have framed them, but you get the gist. So Wikipedia says, woke is an adjective derived from African American vernacular English, which is true, that is where it comes from, meaning alert to racial prejudice and discrimination. Beginning in the 2010s, it came to encompass a broader awareness of social inequalities such as racial justice, sexism, and LGBT rights. Basically intersectionalism, isn't it? Woke has also been used as shorthand for some ideas of the American left involving identity politics, true, and social justice such as white privilege and reparations for slavery in the United States. That doesn't seem that controversial, does it? I know we might phrase it slightly differently, and I think it's being used in the modern day as more of a pejorative term to mean, you know, you have ridiculous ideas, because of course the left don't refer to themselves as woke anymore. It was one of the few words actually that was captured by the right and turned against them. The left love doing this to us. We very rarely successfully do it to them, which I think a lesson can be learnt there, can't it? In that you can just laden a term that they're using. It's like with the trans stuff and the I forgot what they're called.
The LGBTQ plus.
The drag queens doing drag queen story hour, and people started calling them groomers, and all of a sudden
it caught.
It did, yeah. And all of these negative terms started to stick, and because it was starting to stick, the establishment really got on it and said that this is unacceptable. They're calling everyone who's LGBT a paedophile and things like that, which wasn't what was going on. It was more that these specific people, specifically targeting children, are doing it in a way in which they're grooming the children to become like them, which makes perfect sense why you would object to it.
What does the Oxford Dictionary say about woke?
It says, aware of social and political issues, especially racism, and it also adds the caveat, this word is often used in a disapproving way by people who think that some other people are too easily upset about these issues or talk too much about them in a way that does not change anything.
Okay.
I mean,
obviously there is a kind of bias in the definition, and I think that generally speaking, when we are looking at dictionaries, we forget that dictionaries are registered by individual persons who register what they think is the conventional meaning of a term.
Unless you're the French speaking world, in which case it's determined by the French government.
And changes all the time.
Well, not nearly as much as English. English, you kind of, any old word can sneak into the Oxford or Cambridge dictionaries.
Yeah.
Like they added goblin mode into the dictionary, so if that can make it in, then anything can.
I love this term, by the way, goblin mode. But let me just say one thing, because I frequently deal with the history of ideas. And here is where dictionaries are helpful, but they can only get you so far. When you look at the history of an idea, like for instance, I'm looking at the history of the idea of reason and the history of the idea of liberty, you frequently get people who say liberty is this or that. But I'm a bit more scholastic, because I constantly like looking past language and looking at reality and how these words are supposed to describe elements of reality. So when we're talking about a term like woke, that is a term that characterizes persons, there are many questions to ask with respect to what exactly it is about persons that the term woke captures. So is it about the character? If it's about the character, what about their character is it? Because you could have, for instance, irascible wokeists, and you could have wokeists who are a bit more are less irascible. Okay, you could have all sorts of things. So the question is, what is wokeism? Is wokeism a disposition? Is it a trait of character? Is it a set of beliefs? Does it refer to the manner in which beliefs are held? All these are different. And frequently that is the issue, because both you and I are interested in introducing some nuance into what we're talking about. And nuance is necessary if you actually want to understand how things are.
I think that out of all of the things you've listed there, it applies to all of them, but stereotypes of what the typical group member is.
Exactly.
So you have these sort of characters in the woke sort of Bible, if you will. I don't know why I've just invented that term, but you have that the example of the arch feminist called Big Red, and that became like an archetype. And you have these archetypal stereotypes of these people who exhibit certain traits or behaviours or beliefs.
Exactly.
And our focus isn't necessarily on the ideology of woke. I think we cover this a lot on the live podcast, and it's well-trodden territory. But the actual behaviour and approach to politics is the thing that we're interested in, and particularly why the right is adopting some of these things, even though they're sort of symptomatic of the ills that motivate their enemy in the first place. And my argument would be that in imitating or lowering yourself to the level that they conduct themselves, you're opening yourself up to the same problems that motivate them to be the way they are in the first place. And becoming a mirror image of your enemy is not a very dignified thing to have happen to you. It's actually debasing yourself. You just become a reaction to people who you dislike, but at the same time you conduct yourself and share lots of traits with them, even though you object to them, and it becomes this impossible to resolve situation if everyone adopted woke methods of engaging in, say, discourse or in politics more generally. There would be no civil society, basically. It would completely dissolve. And although succeeding in politics is very, very important, you don't want this situation, which I think is very unlikely, but still, you don't want a situation whereby you have a breakdown of civil discourse, which eventually erodes the entire fabric of society. Because if people can't cooperate, then you can't have a civilization. And I think that people like to over-egg how far along we are with this. I think this is only in its infancy, really. It could get significantly worse to the point where,
I like your idea about the trap that you're saying that we may fall into, because a lot of the time, the people we are going to talk about, they do think that there is no problem with adopting the same policies and the same means of argumentation against the woke, or the same, It reminds me of the concept of anti-racism, and also putting the anti-clause in favor of it. It's more of the same. And in being more of the same, it is an instance, I would say, of useful idiocy. Why? Because it leads us to the disintegration of the social order that people from the right wing claim to support and lament its decline. And it is the exact social order that the left is constantly accusing as being the worst thing ever in the history of the universe. So in adopting these kinds of woke behavior, people from the right are acting like useful idiots of the left, and they are destroying the very fabric of the society they claim to be defending.
Thank you for watching that clip from my series Contemplations. If you want to sign up to the website for £5 a month, you can access that series, which comes out 1 p.m. every Saturday. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.